Hey everybody, Tyree here with Before I Forget, along with Kevin. Say hey, Kevin.
Hello, everybody.
It's been a long time since we have done a little show, and we're going to continue our series of the 20th anniversary of our deployment to Iraq, Samara, and this month is May. And in May, we had something really small that happened called for us, the Mother's Day ambush, Mother's Day battle of Mother's Day, whatever. We're
The
gonna get on.
ambush of Mother's Day that turned into a small battle.
Yeah, there you go. But before we get into that, we have Lou here, who was also deployed, not with us, but he was with the 30th, right?
I was with the first ID 126.
Okay. He got a not got, he was not even
Earned.
how yeah, there you go. Earned a bronze star with a V device, and he's going to explain a little bit about what happened on these events. Uh, for this particular one, we're actually going to step backwards a little bit and talk about um, Easter Sunday because this is when he earned his award. So, Lou, go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Lou Barsalo. I was part of the second platoon, fourth squad during the Battle of Easter Sunday, um, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Coming on,
So,
man.
so you were uh was that the Charlie Company second 108th?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So, for those that are watching along, you understand who they are. For those of you who might be new to the show, and this might be your first one, Charlie Company second 108th out of New York City. They're the National Guard group that was attached to us while we were deployed to Samara, Iraq in 2004 to 2005. We were, of course, in Bravo Company 126, and then we had this Charlie Company from these National Guard guys, and they fucking rocked that deployment. I mean, because you know how it is, right? I'm sure you heard, Lou, right? National Guard, active duty, a lot of animosity there. Nobody likes the Guard. Active duty is too full of themselves, but you guys showed up, and we've said this before plenty of times on the show with Alvin and George and everybody, but like you guys showed up and like you guys competed. You guys did the job beyond anyone's expectations, and we're definitely proud of to have you guys part of the Blue Spader family. That's 100% true. Um, so Lou here was a squad leader in, like you said, in fourth platoon during that deployment. And on Easter Sunday, which is the last episode that we did, and at the end of this show, I'll leave a link for it so you can go back and watch it if you haven't seen it. But for those of you on YouTube anyway. Um, so Lou was a squad leader during that particular ambush, and we were just talking a bit ago of all of the events that happened on that deployment in that year. The ambush on Easter Sunday was probably the largest surprise attack that we encountered. We had tons of other ones, but Easter Sunday was citywide. We took a huge hit. The 108th guys definitely did. Um, and I mean, next to it, the largest event that we took part of was Operation Baton Rouge, October 1st, 2004. But that was planned, right? We organized that and we went in and we did this big mission. Easter
Yeah.
Sunday was just a big surprise clusterfuck, smack in the face. You know, and during this event, Lou was awarded finally 20 years later, apparently, right? The Bronze Star with Valor. And for those of you who do not know, the Valor, right, and what Ty referred to as the V device, is only awarded in combat. So it's a very, in my mind, that's where my Instagram handle comes from because I received the RCOM with V device with Valor. And I'm very proud of that fact because it's something you only get in combat. And to get a bronze star means you did some pretty rad shit. So Lou, let's hear let's hear about these events, man. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I'll start off with it was during the period of Ramadan. So we were outside of the city tasked to do checkpoints for those coming into the city to see if we couldn't filter out anything coming in. And during that period, the 7-day period, they ramped up and fortified, the city. So as we continued our 7-day journey outside of the city, we had events also that had happened during that period. During one of the checkpoints, for instance, with one of the M1s that was attached to us, we had a vehicle come up, and 3 people came out of the vehicle, and they drew their AK-47s at our checkpoint, and they threw a grenade at the M1. Interestingly enough, the M1 soldiers were outside of their M1 and didn't think anything would happen at this checkpoint after 7 to 14 days being out in the bush. I can tell you that after this event, those soldiers were inside that M1 at all times. They never came back out of that M1. That hand grenade hit the tank and rolled over to the other side. At the checkpoint, we engaged, just killed all 3, attended to the medical aid of one of the hostiles, but they passed away due to injuries, fatal injuries at that. So there were some events that had happened leading up to this. We also had found a cache of hundreds of thousands of mortar rounds outside of the canal that we were guarding at the time that we received the call from the battalion to do a search of coming back in to Samara, to do a sweep on the way back into the battalion, the FOB. And this was done hastily, which was an issue. Again, people make decisions at the time, and they think it's right. Sometimes a little hasty. As we go back and look at it, if they always say hindsight's 2020. It comes out, they say that for a reason. And I say this because the call was done so that we would do that mission immediately, and we rushed to consolidate and reorganize after 7 to 14 days out on the bush. We weren't even in our own squads. I don't know what the reason was for trying to expedite this search from the commander. I know that I personally, when I called the status of enemy situation, because we had been outside and we had seen, action on the outside trying to come in, the report was 0 to 1,000 insurgents in the AO. So we're company less size element going in. It didn't sound right to me. Again, we scrambled to get in vehicles and to just get ourselves together after being out there for so long. And then we actually rolled out, not as a full company, but in sections of company. Again, not organized. We did all the wrong things, let's say, that we shouldn't have, to try to meet the battalion standard of moving out, ASAP, and trying to meet their intent as quickly as possible. So as we all assembled, got on the trucks, trying to figure out what trucks were rolling out, because again, we're a line unit. So our vehicle capacity was done by another platoon. So we had to coordinate that. And then our 5-ton drivers. So, it was a lot of coordination. Like we know of any mission, it takes a lot of planning before you can just roll out to do a search of an AO. Not much intel was given also prior to moving out. So as the first convoy rolled out, once we hit the corner, um, going back into Samara, I was in a 5 ton. There was another 5 ton ahead of me. I believe there was about 2, 4, 6, 7 soldiers in the back, and then the driver. And if you recall at the time, nothing was up armored. Uh, not the Humvees, not the 5 tons. This was really our wake up call. And I say our wake up call because I think it echoed across not only our company, but 126, that they meant business. And this wasn't something to take lightly. At this point, we had not been hit with anything stronger than a few, mortar rounds, some 5.5 or some 7.62. So, as I always tell, people, Hollywood could not have created a better scene. Um, it was well executed, well planned, well organized, and kudos to their side for executing this, because it was picture perfect, as I would say, as far as initiating, element of surprise, all the things they teach us to do for an ambush, they executed it. As we roll in, the initiated with an IED that blew the 5 ton ahead of us, followed by an RPG from the mosque right to the right of the 5 ton in the IED. The RPG took out Nathan Brown in the chest plate, and then they took a second round in that vehicle that injured the rest of the people that were in the back of that 5 ton. I was in the 5 ton behind them. After the IED, I couldn't see. I was the TC. I could not see anything in front of me, between the IED and the RPGs. And that all came from the right-hand side. Simultaneously, on the left-hand side, linear, they had mortar rounds. So IED initiated it, RPG into the vehicles, and then linear to the left-hand side of the trucks were the mortar rounds. I know they always teach us to blow through these things, but I took a hard right. I made eye contact. I could see where enemy contact was being given from. So we pulled the 5 ton over and initiated. We dismounted. We did our own cordon within that corridor of the mosque and the building across the street. We can see them disengaging from the mosque and going down the alleyway. On the other side, you had 2 to 3 insurgents running down with RPGs to go around the other side of the building to get the tail end of the vehicles. But I think we disrupted that. So we allowed the other vehicles to bypass while we tried to break through the ambush and disrupt their setting. Unfortunately, we were cut off at that point because we were the only vehicle there. And my contact, as far as radio contact, was limited with the old bricks that we had. I know that in the talk, one of my friends, my peers, he had heard the messages coming through, and he remembers. He always tells me, "It's like, we remember the message is pretty clear because you announced, contact, 9 o'clock, and then you dismounted, and then you again repeated contact 6 o'clock, contact 3 o'clock, and contact 12 o'clock."
Wow.
So it was heavy. We just engaged again. We tried to break through the ambush itself. We set out our cordon. We set up our saw. We just engaged as they tried to again break. They tried to break contact from their ambush site, and I think we caught them by surprise. So that was a good thing on our part. Again, like I said, I give them the kudos because that initiation was picture perfect. It was everything that they teach us to do. something that Hollywood could set up. Um, Unfortunately, we did lose, the youngest member of, I think, the entire battalion, who was 19, just turned 19 at the time, which was Nathan Brown. And then we had 6 injured from the IEDs, or I'm sorry, the RPGs that went into that 5-ton. We were unscathed, thank God. I think it was a blessing. I will tell you that this comes from another source, another one of my soldiers at the time, and I'll never forget it. I was standing by the wall, um, trying to make radio contact, and he had described to me that bullets made were shooting around my head, around the building or around the wall, as in, so that it almost looked like an outline of my body. So when I left, you can see the outline. And he tells me this all the time, and I was amazed. I was like, I don't remember that, because I was on the radio trying to get some support. But I'll never, from that day, I don't mean to be religious, but I truly believe that somebody was watching over us that day. There's no way around it.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, man.
Yeah.
That's
So we continued to push on, breaking the ambush in their disengagement. We finally made contact with the last vehicle of that convoy that stopped at the corner of the entrance of the city. Um, the rest of the convoy pushed forward with the injured to the ODA house. They finally received a message from me relaying through the last vehicle forward, and they returned to support and get us back out. And then they came back. We were also black on ammo, so this was again one of those learning experiences where you go in with so much ammo, and it all looks great on Hollywood, but when you are really shooting, um, you don't realize how fast ammunition goes. And from that day forward, we never left with basic or even a little more than basic load um, for the rest of that deployment. The vehicles came back. We asked for a status once we came to uh, a status on ammunition and personnel, obviously trying to consolidate and reorganize. Everyone, I, I want to say almost everyone was at black with ammunition, even the vehicles coming back, because from what I understand, the vehicles who had left moving forward with the injured and the wounded and the dead to the ODA house shot their way all the way back to the ODA house. They were getting hit constantly all the way back to the ODA from that specific engagement. When the vehicles returned, I can't remember who it was, ordered my guys to get back on the 5-ton. Again, I don't mean to ever be disrespectful or disobedient, but there are certain times where you have to just take a stand on your decisions and go with your gut for whatever reason. Um, I told my soldiers not to get back on, so we would, what I call, do the Mogadishu mile. We took block after block after block until I felt that it was safe enough to get on a vehicle and roll out. Um, After the carnage that had happened, I didn't feel comfortable, driving, um, especially when everybody is kind of low on ammunition. So we kind of just, again, took a street at a time, um, calculated again, planned, using tactics, nothing crazy, all basics, conserving ammunition. And after about, I don't know, 4 or 5 blocks, I know we called the Bradleys in to give us additional support before we rolled out. Pop smoke. Once we got, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 blocks, maybe a quarter of a mile, um, they finally found us, and then they were our support element to get us out. So they stayed in place did an overwatch when we were able to get on, and then they convoyed us back to the ODA where we consolidated, reorganized, and tended to our wounded.
Right.
Other than that, I mean, as a squad leader, you just kind of maneuver your squad accordingly, shifting, moving. It's kind of difficult when you're getting 360-degree, assault from, all avenues, in that it's not something they kind of teach you. I know that they teach you a lot of tactics prior to. We rehearse a lot. Um, I was on active duty for 10 years, and we never do those types of scenarios. It's always, not a perfect scenario, but it's either an ambush or a linear ambush or a convoy ambush or a building or suburbia, but it's never, what happens when, you're surrounded 360 degrees and it's been planned down to the, from the initiation down to the last round going down range. And again, like I said, I will always give them kudos for that day because it was Hollywood. uh they continued to be aggressive throughout. Mortars, RP, small arms, their RPGs were disengaged after small arms, and more of the mortar fire on that road linear. Um, but again, it could have gone south quick. Could have made the wrong call. You know.
Well, I want to ask you on when your vehicles were going through that first 5 ton gets hit, and you said typically that's something that you would just kind of roll through, but you made the decision to make that hard right and then dismount. What was the thinking behind that decision?
For two reasons. I couldn't see, so I didn't know if we were going to hit the 5 ton in front of us. Because the ID explosion was so large, I thought it was done. And then the RPG round. So I didn't want to be a sitting duck. I didn't want to hit the back of that vehicle, and now you're in an accident, and now you have RPGs coming from the mosque above, and then linear mortar fire, and then small arm fire. So now you have to tend to more wounded for a vehicle accident. So that was my thought process. I couldn't see the vehicle, and if I can't see, I'm not going. Blind.
That's 1,000% true. Even I was a police officer for a few years, and it's very important that you don't rush into a situation. You don't want to cause more casualties just getting there. Um, I know that you guys are going through some really heavy shit at that point. I mean, 2 weeks out in the bush, and now you're going to do this, and then all of a sudden this happens. I know that your mind had to have been going a million miles an hour. How did you stay calm in this? Because that's a lot of stuff to deal with. And how did you came up with the decision to go hard right, but there's so much other things going on. How did you hold it together?
I can't speak for everyone. Some people, even in the civilian world, they have a sense of calmness through hectic situations. I don't know if it's natural or if it's learned or it could be training. Um, it was just something that I believe that we had trained so much for that it almost became natural. It was okay. This is a situation. Um, and I think the fact that a lot of the guard members are older individuals, so they may have a little more life experience. We did have some police officers, we did have some EMS. So they may have seen, again, nothing this tragic, but they may have been through things that may allow them that training to calm themselves through those situations. Um, how, honestly, again, I don't mean to throw in spiritual, religious, but, I am a spiritual person, and I do pray And even during that period, I always asked for strength and victory through his name. And again, I think it's just part of who I am. I've always been calm through situations. I don't know why. Uh, if that answers your question, I mean, sometimes I think people are just born that way, honestly. You know, it's kind of like an artist, right? An artist can see things that other people can't of a picture,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and it's not for everyone to see. It's almost like being a leader. A leader, not everyone can be one. And we've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
War actually filters out those that said they were, and somehow it filters out true leaders or warriors.
Yeah.
Sometimes the people that you thought were leaders are not. Sometimes, the ones that you thought could not be rise to the occasion. So for that, I truly am thankful for the experiences that I've gone through to help me better myself as a person. Um, and again, that's what veterans are. Veterans are experienced people through these tragic or traumas to better um, be fit for another situation ahead. So this happened early. I was thankful for it as much as it was a tragedy, but it actually set the pace, tone, and mindset for the rest of the deployment.
So it was your leadership and your calmness through this situation and getting your guys out and making these really tough decisions, these split second decisions, right? You're literally fish in a barrel, and every decision you make will either determine whether or not somebody in your group lives or dies, whether there's more loss to equipment or whatever. And it's this that earns you the Bronze Star with Valor. Yeah, that sound about right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think there's a lot more people that deserve the Valor device through their actions. These services are very political in what they give. And for that, you know, I'm ashamed to say I'm part of an organization that does that because it's not just me. There's a lot of leaders that I have met through my time. I retired in May of 2020, May of 2020. Um, and through my time, whether it be Guard, active duty, reserves, Navy, Army, Air Force, Special Forces, there are good and bad leaders. Uh, and as you go through, you have to pick the best qualities of those leaders and kind of try to figure out why they are the way they are.
Mhm.
And I think from this point, I've had almost 12 years of active duty at this point before I switched over to the Guard. I have had a lot of good and bad leaders, and I've seen a lot of, traits that were worthy of emulation. So that may have contributed to that ability to be able to do that, if that answers your question.
Yeah. So and at this time, so 12 years active duty, you came in, I assume, right out of high school or something like that. So you were probably close to 30.
Yes, yep. I entered in 1990, and then I left Bragg at like 1998 or 99 or something like that.
So
You
I,
really
I
got a lot of good experience on you. I'm sorry to cut you off. Do you have
you're
any
good.
deployments under your belt before that?
All we had at the time was Haiti,
Okay.
and that was a turnaround. But we did go as a show of force. I came in right after the Gulf War. Thought we would see something in the 10 years, but that was the longest period of our history that we've ever had that was
Mm.
peacetime. Haiti was in 1994, I think. We went back in 1996. It was I think Jimmy Carter at the time. It was the biggest airborne operation in history since World War II. Uh, and they turned it around. And then months following, I think we went back for a show of force. uh, through to Haiti. Other than that, that was it. Until 9/11, there wasn't anything significant.
Yeah. Yeah, there really wasn't a lot going on. The 90s was Bill Clinton. But yeah, no, there really wasn't a lot going on. I mean, aside from, so you had the Gulf War, Mogadishu, Haiti, and then there's the Balkan Mountains, with the collapse of Yugoslavia and all that stuff. But I mean, and there were some involvement with that. Like I know First ID went over there in '98 to do some peacekeeping, and we ended up being there in 2002 for the same thing, but it wasn't anything large scale. I mean, I say that it wasn't anything that was really hard hitting in the news. You know what I mean? It's not like 20 years of global war on terror. It wasn't a major war campaign. It was just, let's go intervene. Slobodan Milosevic is killing people. But yeah, I mean, the 90s was fairly uneventful, especially when you compare it to the 80s and obviously the 70s and 60s with the Vietnam War, 50s in Korea, 40s with the World War II. So, I mean, the 90s was pretty uneventful.
Yep. There
Yeah,
was
that's
no community in the 90s, not until 9/11.
um but I like to know people's age when they do these things because I like to make and I like to make comparisons. Um, for your average 30-year-old and what they're doing out in the world. I know, so Tyree and I were both 21. I think I turned 22 there. You turned 21 there, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. One.
So we're young guys. And actually in our unit, we're some of the more experienced ones that were not NCOs yet. So we were definitely the E4 mafia, you know. Um, but it's an interesting parallel to think about like what your civilian counterpart is doing at 20 22 years old, 30 years old, or our platoon sergeants and higher ups, who in their mid 30s to pushing 40s. Here I am 41, pushing 42, and it's really weird to think about like what your average person back home is doing while you're over there, making under $30,000 a year, watching shit blow up and taking mortar fire and literally being the fish in a barrel in an ambush like that. Like, and historically, you think about all the different battles. Was it Chesty Puller said, they sort of were completely surrounded. It's a target rich environment or more targets to shoot at. I can't remember how it exactly goes. I think there was a similar scenario in the story of from We Were Soldiers, from when that comes out, was in the Idrang Valley with Colonel Hal Moore, how they were completely surrounded. So it's not something that we hear a ton of, and to be completely surrounded like that, make these these split second life or death decisions in this highly volatile situation and come out mostly successful. Like, I don't know, man. Like at 30 years old, you know it's to me, it's an impressive thing. It's an impressive thing, and it doesn't make, and I'm not saying this to say that like those of us who are deployed or those of us who are in the military who find ourselves in these situations are more special than our civilian counterparts of the same age. I think the bulk of people would probably, with enough training, be able to make correct decisions in these situations. Um, it's just an interesting thing to think, oh man, when I was 22, like I was still at home, playing video games and working my dead end job at Walmart or wherever the shit. And, you know,
Yeah.
um, hell, even when I was, so I did my 4 years on active duty, and then and Tyree and I both went into the reserves. I became a drill sergeant. He became an instructor. And, it's just crazy to think that when I was 30 years old, I mean, I'd had what, 5, 6 cycles under my belt at that point, and was 11 and a half, 12 years into the Army. And all of my combat experience was behind me. I would never deploy overseas again. So it's just an interesting thing to think about. I get a kick out of that kind of stuff, I guess.
Mhm. Question. Uh, you seem like a person that doesn't really care too much about the accolades. Um,
Very
awards,
humble.
yeah, awards. Who cares? But 20 years to wait on this one. What was the feeling with that?
Mm.
Because
Um,
we all know
I,
the military, the red tape with everything, and you gotta explain yourself and explain this. But like 20 years saved a bunch of people. Like, give me a break.
honestly, I look at what you leave your family, your children, your nephews, your grandchildren. Um, to me, it's just something that I can leave behind that's in the books, um, to this kind of display some of the accolades that you've done through your lifetime. The service was a big part of my life. It is not everything. It is a chapter of my life. Anytime someone's going to retire, I always tell them, make sure that you have something that's yours outside of the service, because the service is not you. You go into
100%. Yes.
you go yes, you go into the service a person and put on a uniform. When you depart, you come out of that uniform and you should be that person and hopefully better. But you should still be, let's say my name's Lou, right? So I should be a better Lou. I never start a conversation, or I never tell anybody, unless they ask me. But I've had a lot of other things that I've wanted to achieve outside the service, school, martial arts, you name it. There's always more goals out there. And you should never stop having goals, and you should never think that the service was it. That was your greatest. For some people it is, and I don't want to take that away from people, right? Because everyone has a different life. um, for me, myself, I have other achievements.
Oh, you muted. You muted yourself. Lou, I think you muted. You muted. You muted.
Yeah, I can't unmute. There he
There you
goes.
go. You're back. You
That's my mindset. And I've been told that before by other people. I think the humbleness just comes from having great people around you, people better than yourself to look up to or to learn from, and understand why people are attracted to them. And it's typically because they're humble. They're so good at what they do, they don't need to say anything. They don't need to display it. And there's a lot of people out there like that. Um, so that's in a nutshell, that's my point of view. Let's lose perspective on that.
No,
um
I couldn't agree more, man. Because so when I got my 20-year letter, um, I was on the fence about whether or not I was going to retire. I, I loved what I did. I loved being a drill sergeant. I was a drill sergeant until my last day. Um, and I don't know. I definitely felt the age. You know what I mean? Like my last cycle, I was 39 years old. And it was rough. I went for the 2 months that the cycle lasted. I did the full cycle and I come home off of orders. And it took me probably 4 to 5 months to fully recover, right? Because I'm not one of those drills that like, I'm there, hey, the Joe is up at 4:30 and they training is done at 1700 and that's my hours. Like I'm there as long as they're there, right? Because well, I mean, one, like I'm a reserve guy. I'm not there for the 2 years on the trail, even though I've done year-long mobilizations. I know what that's like. Um, so to me, it was just, I have to give these soldiers everything that I can because I mean they're in here, I expect them to give me everything that they can, and so I'm going to return that. And but man, like I physically was breaking down. I was in so much pain the entire time. Like my trainees, they had I had a saying, that I took from Rick and Morty, existence is pain, because I was constantly hurting everywhere. And you know, and that's what it is, right? That's part of the sacrifice of doing that particular job. And I definitely drank the Kool-Aid. First Infantry Division's motto, right? No mission too difficult, no sacrifice too great, duty first. And I drank that Kool-Aid fully. And I really meant it.
I
And
think we all did.
yeah,
Everybody drinks that.
yeah. But you know, so when I got my letter, you know, it was a oh shit, man, like I can retire now. I can be done with this and I can move on with my life. And then I had to ask myself that same exact question. Who am I? Who am I outside of the military? Like I am Drill Sergeant Johnson, you know what I mean? And that's who I am. That's who I've been identified as, but like that's not what I wanted to be. And once this was over, that's not who I was going to be anymore. So I did a lot of soul searching while I was waiting for my packet to clear because I did decide to retire. And obviously. And and so that's, you know, I decided, you know, I've always what I wanted to do before I joined the military was be a teacher, and that was the one thing that I really enjoyed about being a drill sergeant was teaching. So I'm in school to do that. But it's interesting, you know, since then, you know, since retiring, I've got married, I have a kid on the way.
Congrats.
So yeah,
Hey, that
thank
was
Congrats,
a big
brother.
announcement right there to the world too, by the way. I
yeah.
don't think we've even spoke about that period. So there you go.
No, and that's one other thing. So like while I was in, I tried to have a social media presence. I don't know what it is. I kind of fell into the trap of wanting to be, I mean, I can call it an influencer or whatever. I wasn't trying to be an influencer in any way. I just was posting a lot and had to have a small following. And since retiring and since getting with Kate, like and our us starting our own lives, I feel more focused on the inside of my house. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Um, so definitely excited about all these new changes in my life. But it's really interesting that like, you know, like you said, the military was this chapter, and that chapter is done, and I'm on to the next chapter, which is, you know, married man and fatherhood, and I fucking can't be more excited about it. Like, pretty stoked. But and obviously, you know, like I said, completing college and then being a teacher and being boring, you know. But
No,
uh,
you're right on. Your biggest chapter is yet to come, my friend.
yeah, definitely looking forward to it, man. But Lou, like first of all, congrats on finally getting your Bronze Star with Vita Vice, with Valor.
Thank you, brother.
Definitely well deserved. It's the wrong sound.
Round of applause over here, man. Right there.
It's been a while since you've used those buttons.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Um, but definitely like congrats, man. Like you seem like a very humble guy, and that's amazing. Especially considering, you know, even if that's the one highlight event of your entire life, and I'm sure it's not. Um, like that's a pretty significant thing to remain humble about, and you do it very well. Um, but I feel like, and I see your shirt there, Clobber Jiu-Jitsu. So I feel like you train, and so you know what being humbled is like on the mat. What belt are you?
I actually teach Krav Maga,
Okay.
and I use jujitsu as a base for groundwork. If you're not familiar with Krav Maga, it's an Israeli combative. Self-defense is what we teach. So I try to train a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
just so I can coach better. That's
Yeah.
all.
But yeah,
So,
and martial arts will definitely humble you. I mean, you look like a pretty solid guy, and I feel like, you know, that's one thing that I learned in jiu-jitsu is it doesn't matter the size, the technique will. I mean, you can have strength, but sometimes technique will overtake that. Endurance, it goes a long way. Um,
Yeah.
so, but man, thank you for coming here and telling us that story, dude. Like, and recapping your experience on Easter Sunday, and we definitely look forward to having you back for more stuff. Like, I really want your take on Baton Rouge. Like,
All
yeah,
right, brother.
yeah, man,
It's been my honor. I really appreciate being asked to join this this group of great individuals. And to listen and to just reach out and reunite with
yeah.
20 years, a long time, brother.
Yeah, it is, and yeah, and that's part of the reason why we started doing this. Like when Tyree came up with the idea of doing the show, and I was a little hesitant at first because, you know, I tend to be hesitant on a lot of things, and but of all the ideas Tyree has had, and he's had a lot of ideas, this is definitely one of his best ones, and has brought together even our group. We've started doing reunions and all of that stuff, and I feel like I don't know why. I feel like you guys need to be invited to these things. You might
That'd
not
be
know
great.
us. You might not know us personally, but I mean, that's no reason we can't start 20 years later. You know.
I bridged that relationship easy, brother.
Oh yeah. But
All right.
yeah, man. Again, thanks for chatting with us for real. Like that was loved hearing that story.
Yeah, I really can't wait to hear your take on Baton Rouge, man. The way you explain things and the way perfect. I
Yeah, I was
can't
there.
ask for a better. But on the flip side, man, we got to move on because for this particular show, we are supposed to talk about our dealings in the May in Iraq in Samara, which we sat down together as a group here, just three of us, and said, "Hey, not a lot of things happened that month, except there was a battle, another ambush, more or less, on Mother's Day."
Hmm.
And I,
Hey, you guys, I got to depart. I got a contractor waiting for me. I would love to join anything you guys have. You know, anything I can contribute to reach more people would be great.
Yeah,
It's been my honor, definitely, to be with you guys today, and I thank you.
our honor too, man. That definitely. Thank you.
all right, see you later.
Have a
Next-
good and congratulations.
And congrats to you, man. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
So, um, like we were saying, not a lot has happened in the month of May during that deployment, except our another ambush. We were tasked to go recover a golden Quran.
Hang on a second.
What's up?
Zoom is asking me some dumb questions. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Um, we were tasked to go and recover a golden Quran from a house. This is about all I knew from this, and immediately I knew it was bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Bullshit.
my remembrance of it was the Iraqi police or the ICDC, the Iraqi Civil Defense Corps, who would later become the IA, Iraqi Army, came to us and said, "Hey, we need your assistance in recovering this very special copy of the Quran." And uh, I remember hearing the briefs and everybody knowing at that point before we even left Brassfield Mora that they all thought it was a bullshit request and that we shouldn't have taken the mission and that it was more than likely going to be an ambush. And wouldn't you know it, it was an ambush.
Bigger than shit. You know what?
Surprise.
And just to be clear to everyone, we're not bashing any religious artifacts. Not in the least. Like, okay, if you want us to go get it, we'll go get it. Like, we didn't say, no, fuck that, we're not going. But we knew full well what was going on, but we still go because that was our mission.
Yeah.
Um, Again, I don't remember the specifics, but I do remember standing around with guys saying, we're all laughing like this is bullshit. Like, whatever happens, happens, and a lot of shit happened in a very small amount of time.
Yeah. Um, and it's funny, the surprise is kind of taken out of it. Like ambush like inherently has this element of surprise.
Right.
But if you know something is going to be an ambush or you suspect that it's going to be an ambush, like there's no more surprise. So when it does happen, you're like, okay, well, we knew that was going to happen. Um, we didn't fully understand or obviously know at the time what all would happen. But it ended up being quite a bit. Uh, they definitely came at us, and I don't know if it took them time to recover from Easter Sunday, um, or if they were like one more shot at taking these dudes out and showing them we mean business.
Yep.
Um, but then again, in June, at the ODA house, they tried again real hard, and then it's really interesting. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of recap that the following months from here. So Easter, big ambush, citywide. You can watch that episode again. It'll be linked at the end of this one. Um, Mother's Day, not as large as Easter Sunday, but still very well coordinated. Um, and that happened in June. So the decision was made in 2004 to pull out of all Iraqi cities and give it back to the people and let them rule and govern and all that good stuff and police themselves, which we all knew was going to be a bad idea. But we found ourselves at the ODA house, the Special Forces house there in Samara, and they were getting overrun because they kept a small force there. And then elements from our brigade or task force were out there providing them security. They were getting overrun, so we go out there and we assist, and we'll definitely talk more about that next month. And then after that, we pull out of the ODA house and we effectively pull out of Samara. And we had no more dealings in town. So July, August, and September are very boring months for us. We're out there patrolling the open desert, and not a lot goes on. So those will actually be very boring episodes, I think. Because I really don't remember.
There not a lot of things going on for those months, but there was still like little things going on. Like everyone was going on their R&Rs,
Yeah.
starting to go on their trips to
Cutter.
Qatar.
Yeah. Qatar. Cutter.
So a
Yeah.
lot of things are really going on. A lot of parts are moving. Um,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
were also able to see a lot more of the country because we couldn't go in the city. So we're out here looking at the beautiful countryside of Samara, Iraq, which was, believe it or not, dude, I fucking loved it. It wasn't an ugly place to me in the country. It was hot. Okay, yeah. Motherfuckers try to shoot you every now and then or blow you the fuck up, but whatever. It was a beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. It's a weird thing to say too, right? But what I mean is though, it's fairly uneventful as for in terms of like big skirmishes or big battles or ambushes or whatever. And you have to think, you step back. So June we pull out of the cities, and you have to think from their perspective, Easter Sunday, Mother's Day, the battle at the ODA house, and they from their perspective, this is a victory, right? The soldiers, the Americans are pulling out, the infidels are pulling out, and we finally get control of our city again. And then October 1st comes, and well, I guess they weren't fucking around. Obviously there was the car bomb at the ICDC compound. Um, Obviously that was a pretty big event. So they were still in some ways fucking with us and trying to poke the bear, so to speak, poke the eagle. But you know, fairly uneventful. And then October 1st happens, Operation Baton Rouge. If you want to look that up, there's a Wikipedia page. It's kind of accurate, I guess. And there's a whole write up on it. But and that's a whole retaking of the city, and it was a big deal. But we're not here to talk about that. It's just an interesting thing because month by month by month there was a large substantial event, then fairly uneventful with a few things here and there, and then we just come back in um swinging, and the remainder of the deployment is just nonstop fighting. And apparently it's 2 o'clock. My computer tells me the time. Um, so I don't know. It was just from their perspective, I can imagine like the victory dance, and then oh fuck. But Mother's Day, back on that. So we're going in to recover this copy of the Quran that was stolen. And like Tyree said, it wasn't about we're not going to go recover this book because we don't care about their religion. That's not how that works. Part of our mission was hearts and mind. Like we were there to truly try and help. I mean, at least from our perspective, the guys on the ground. It was an unfortunate by unfortunate happenstance, like we would get shot at a lot and then we would have to return fire because that's just how the rules of engagement go. But we did a lot of humanitarian tough stuff too. That movie Sandcastle, have you ever seen that?
No.
I just watched it the other night, and I was hesitant at first because I was like, another early Iraq war movie, probably not going to be that good, but it really does a great job at explaining or highlighting the efforts that went into helping where we could, and then those efforts end up ultimately being for naught. And you know, it's pretty decent movie. It's not real combat heavy, but it's just more of the feeling of wanting to help, not wanting to be there, and then and then wanting to help, and then not wanting to leave, kind of. But so Mother's Day, we get this mission, and we're to roll out. Uh, I want to say like 22, 2300, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Might even have been closer to midnight. And as we're rolling out in our convoy, knowing that it's going to be an ambush at some point. I remember this being over the net. I was a radio operator at the time, the RTO, and I remember hearing over the net constantly like, "Hey, keep an eye out for everything," right? Because we suspect this is going to be an ambush. And sure enough, as the convoy is rolling out to the objective, um, we take IEDs and RPGs and small arms fire. And I very distinctly remember hearing over the net, just keep rolling, keep pushing through. So we did. Did not stop, did not engage. And I think they kind of wanted that because they might have had some other stuff set up, and that's fine. For the mission, I remember we had 3 objectives to hit, 3 different houses. And we had what we call a cordon, an outer cordon, and then an inner cordon. So cordon is basically just a fancy word for security. Now, the outer cordon was mostly made up of Bradleys, the 113s, and the Abrams tanks. The inner cordon was established by Humvees and some other Bradleys and personnel. And then we had our assaulting elements who were on foot, with the command element moving through the objectives in vehicles, up armored Humvees. And so we rolled through that initial ambush through the IEDs and RPGs and small arms, and we get to where we're setting up the outer cordon, and they established that, and then our vehicles would move into the inner cordon and would get established, and then we would dismount. From where we dismounted, or from where we met that ambush to when we dismounted, uneventful. Nothing happened. They allowed us to get into position. Once we had dismounted and we are about halfway from the vehicles to the buildings, because we're moving to our objectives at this point. We knew that we're going to hit this house first, and then this house, and then this house. We receive incoming. We receive mortar fire, and I can tell you, like, to me, there's not really anything shittier, more frightening than hearing the launch of mortar rounds from whatever direction and just waiting for them to impact while you are on foot, because these things they will liquefy you. They will obliterate you. You're gone. And so we hear the launches and we pick up speed. We full on sprint to the nearest buildings, and it kind of gets us off track a little bit. We end up busting through some courtyard. And I know we got separated as a assaulting element. The bulk of us ended up in one building, and I know Tyree, you ended up in a completely separate building from us.
I was outside. I never got into a building. Never made it.
Thought you were on a rooftop.
Oh man, me and Caldwell were sitting in a hole. Once
That's right.
everyone got kicked out of the Brads and shit, and all the shit's going on. Me and Caldwell ran and jumped to this hole in the ground because these fucking rounds are coming in, the mortars. So we're effectively stuck. We couldn't go anywhere during that. So we could watch and kind of hear what was going on behind us, but by this time at night, people were up and stirring around, and it went from not too many people outside to now there's a lot of heads poking around corners. And me and Caldwell are just chilling in this hole, man.
Yeah.
Name defilade, like I could see, I could stand up, and just maybe the top of my head would poke out. So we had good cover. They shot an RPG over our heads. I don't know if it was at us or what. It had to have been at us, but like I could have maybe stuck my hand up and slapped it if I wanted to. Um, the fucking
It's the biggest Roman candle coming your way.
oh shit, man. It was fucking me and Caldwell had a laugh about it after, but it was a fucked up time. Just that
Yeah.
little again, it was very short. And I had shot the guy on the bike, killed him. I was fairly sure that he was part of the problem, and he was no longer a part of the problem. The deal is though about that, I didn't remember that until someone told me. Yeah, I think we had to talk about it like almost a year ago. I had no memory of that period, and somebody explained it to me, and I'm like, okay, now I remember the guy on the bike. Like,
Yeah.
doing.
And I want to be clear about something. So this is that at the time there was a curfew in effect for the civilians of Samara, the population of Samara, and we were well past that curfew. And on top of that, the ambush is in full swing by this point. The mortar rounds are still coming in, small arms fire and RPG fire from all directions. It's a very large area, but it's still happening in all areas. And so to see a guy pedaling on a bicycle um, during all of this, you know, our ROE at the time was, anybody in this type of situation is considered hostile. Um, it's safe to assume because the only people that were out at this time were trying to kill us. So, you know, you didn't know where he was going. You just knew
No,
that
no,
he was going somewhere.
he's a spotter as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
His poking around corners with big machine guns and shit like that, and he's just out in the open flapping. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Something.
So, um, but yeah, so it's not like we were like mowing down people just all willy nilly because that was not a thing. And that was one thing that I know that we were very, very clear on while we were deployed that year is, unless you got PID, positive identification, like, but, um, so we're in this courtyard. We take over this house. We get the whole family gathered and downstairs, and we have guards on them. We apologize profusely to these people. Like, we're so sorry. We don't want to be here. But here we are. And I'm on the radio and I'm listening to um the command come down with instructions and asking for sit reps, situation reports, and wanting to know where everybody is. And I'm listening to the other elements on the radio, all trying to communicate their locations and what's going on, what they're seeing, what they're experiencing. And it's just a big clusterfuck on the net. Um, so we finally get our bearings. We uh before we decide to move out to continue the mission to Charlie Mike, I remember I was taking a knee at the gate and it was cracked open and I was just watching through my night vision. And directly to my 12 o'clock, probably 150 meters, is an Abrams tank and a Bradley, and they are part of the outer cordon, and they're about 25 meters apart, and they're getting lit up by some enemy element on a rooftop. And they just engage simultaneously. The Bradley with the 25 millimeter high explosive rounds, and the Abrams tank with the 50 cal that's mounted on top. And it shoots a tracer. So it's what every fourth round is a tracer. And through my night vision, just watching these two vehicles light up this rooftop in this building, because they were once the rooftop had been kind of neutralized, it's been our SOP. They knew it wasn't a housing, like people didn't live there. It was a like a business type building. Just move from window to window to window. And watching the sparks and the explosions and the tracers, and it was just this big lit up scene. Every time I hear our national anthem, I'm reminded of that. And like I sit there and like I think back to that moment every single time I hear it. The bombs bursting in air. Um, and it's a very vivid memory that I have. It's I don't know. It's a weird thing to relive. If I were to ever say that I've had a flashback from something that happened while deployed, it would be to that moment. Um, It's very surreal. I don't know, but we we get our bearings, we move out from this position, and we decide that we're going to hit our objectives. And so we start to move tactically. We kind of get a good understanding of where the fire is coming from. We neutralize most of it, and we start to move to that first house. And were you a part of that?
Mm-mm. I'm
Okay.
telling you, I didn't move from this hole. We were stuck.
So we get to this house, and it's probably a good thing you were stuck in this hole, because we do a no knock, right? Because we know this is the objective. We bust in, nobody home, lights are out. We start clearing the house room by room, um, and it's completely empty. I mean, there's furniture and stuff in there, but it's completely empty otherwise. There's no people, there's no weapons cache, there's nothing, no explosives, no anything crazy. And Um, I'm towards the front of the house near the front door, which you might call like the foyer. And I'm trying to report up to somebody that, hey, this house is clean. And I hear from the back of the house, people start to panic and they're being frantic. And come to find out, I believe it was Doc Skillen who noticed that there was a refrigerator that had been placed in front of a door. And when they started to move it, they noticed that there were wires running either from the refrigerator to the door or around the doorknob or something. And so at the same time, in a different part of the house, somebody noticed that it smelled like somebody left the gas on. And they put two and two together and they were like, oh shit, this house is an IED. And so we clear out of that fucking house like as quickly as possible. And I don't remember what eventually became of it. I know we didn't call EOD out there because it was kind of a quick mission. But I think we just left it.
Yeah, I think we just fucking.
But it's one of those things. It's one of those things where like if you've got a house full of gas, not gasoline, but like you left the burner on, right, without the spark, and it's just filling up with gas, like you see in the movies, right? Like they cut the gas line, the kitchen fills up, and then the microwave goes off, and the whole house goes explodes. I think, and I don't know if this was something that they picked up from a movie or if it would have actually worked, but had it worked, pretty much our entire dismount element of our platoon would have been uh killed or wounded.
Severely.
Yeah.
Felony.
Um
Dropped on him.
yeah. So that was an interesting situation to find ourselves in. I know from that point, and I've heard Joe Caldwell talk about it a little bit, um, in regards to like how um I don't know, effective Captain Rockefeller was at understanding the battlefield and what was to unfold and leading with his intuition. We knew this was going to be a bad situation. But it was around this time that Captain Rockefeller had made the decision, fuck it, we're leaving.
Mm.
We're not, because if that's house one and we got two more to go, we already been ambushed. We've already received, rockets and RPGs and mortars and small arms. They're throwing everything at us, and we're not going to give them an opportunity to continue this. So what I remember is the word was fucking mount up and we're rolling out.
Mm-hmm.
So we never recovered. We don't even know if this holy copy of the Quran, the special copy of the Quran even existed.
I'm gonna
Uh,
go no.
yeah, probably not. Highly likely no. Come to find out though, we were out on patrol that next day, or maybe we got word. It was one of the two. The building that the Abrams tank and the Bradley had lit up the night before was the Iraqi police station,
Mm.
who were the people that came to us with this mission, this request.
Sons of bitches.
I know. Um, couldn't trust them. Couldn't trust them. Couldn't trust them. Couldn't trust the ICDC. Couldn't trust the IA. There was a period, I think it was in like July, where they were doing recruitment for the Iraqi army, and they were lined up outside the gate, out at the or the fence out at Brassville Moor. We were up, I was up in the tower on the guard tower at the front gate, and just watching them just like try and turn down this gate to get in there to like sign up. I'm like, why are you so anxious to sign up? It must be because either you really care or you really want to hurt us, and who knows? But
I remember art on doing that too in that fucking big circular tower, you know?
what's that?
Uh the tower outside where all those guys were lining up. I had
Mm,
guard inside its really high tower. Like it was probably the safest place you could possibly be. I figured like I can look down into the fire pit, the test
mhm.
fire pit. So it was a good like maybe 20, 30 feet up in the air. I don't know if you remember that. But
Yeah, that's where I was. Yeah.
yeah, the one day I actually did it, those fools got mortared. Somebody started shooting mortars at these people while they're trying to sign up.
Yeah.
So imagine the chaos of everyone just running around all crazy and shit.
Mhm.
And once it stopped, these motherfuckers ran right back and tried to get right back in line.
It's crazy.
Nuts.
Yeah. But as far as May, the Mother's Day ambush was the most significant event, I think. I mean, there were some small skirmishes here and there, mostly just long ass patrols out in town, uh, just walking around endlessly, aimlessly, periodically checking houses. I mean, that was one thing that we did. So if we saw anything that was looked suspicious, um, uh, then we could, you know, search the houses or whatever. We weren't always doing that. We also engaged with the local population, and we got to know quite a few people. The kids, kids are some of the coolest part of it, I think, man, because they are innocent bystanders in this war, and I mean they might have their opinions, and those opinions that they have are typically based off of who's raising them and whatever. So our engagements with them were pretty neat. I remember, and I don't know if this was in May, but I remember I gave a kid a pencil. It was an unsharpened pencil, and he was just his eyes lit up. He was so excited, like he'd never been given anything ever in his life. And I was like, that's crazy, man. Like like if I was his age and somebody gave me an unsharpened pencil and no way to sharpen it, I'd be like, what am I supposed to do with this? But here they
You
are.
know, things were a little bit different for them. Like
Yeah.
as bad as Saddam was, and he was a terrible, terrible person, he was really high on people being able to read. And I want to say like 90% of the population were literate.
Mm,
And that was a big thing. So, of course, he would dig that pencil because he's going to go write some shit for real.
yeah.
Figure out how to sharpen it or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just cool to those interactions with kids, I think have been one of the more peaceful things from that deployment that have stuck with me. Hey mister, give me chocolate, and you give them what you got, but um, or we would take if we did a raid on a house and we found, weapons and bad guys and all that stuff, we also found large amounts of money. We would take that money and then we would recirculate it. We would give it to people um to buy things, because that's just it wasn't our money. What the fuck did we care? You know? So that was cool to be able to do that kind of stuff. But it's like one week or fuck, one day you can go out on Wednesday and try and I remember we were given a budget of like $1,000 to go buy up all the shoes in this market, and then we handed them out to kids.
Mm.
And then the next day shit would pop off and it'd be a firefight in that same area, and you try to help, you try to do what you can, but and I'm not convinced that the people that we were fighting on a day-to-day basis were the people of Samara, and I think we had intel that supported that for a while. We were fighting people from Saudi and Iran and Syria. But it's one of those things I guess you think about, whenever I'm staring off into space and I'm sitting there in thought about something. It's either nothing or it's about something along those lines and trying to continue to justify our being there.
Yeah. Yeah. I was in the same boat. But I think this is a good place to end on this show, man.
Yeah. Well, what? Yeah, for the show, I do want to point out one thing. I do want to talk about one thing. Tyree just recently did improv, and it is. You might not think so from watching this
What?
show.
You're
He's frozen
frozen.
right now. You're frozen. We good now? You might not think so from watching the show, but you might think that he's not a funny person. Um, and generally he's not at all. But but I'm telling you, dude, I can't hear you, but you that fucking he saved that little skit they were doing. Definitely one of the funniest things I've seen from any person ever. And I watched the video, and I'm not gonna go into detail about what the skit was because that's um you know that's for those who saw it. But I fucking died laughing for like 10. I was like crying laughing. Yeah.
Well, I should explain to y'all, man.
Huh?
Over the last um we were just talking about kind of not letting the army be everything that you are in the end. I had to pretty much reinvent everything that I've decided to do in life after my army career ended, police career ended, had to do something. So for a little bit, I was a fucking talent agent, which was a terrible time because it was a terrible company. They didn't know what the hell they're doing. In fact, I barely think they existed. I had a bunch of clients there though, and they were always trying out for things and auditioning for stuff and doing a great job. And I'm like, you know what? Now that I don't have to worry about anybody else doing that, I'm gonna do it myself. So believe it or not, I got myself a talent agency, Britmo Inc. Shout out to them. They represent me for stuff. Um, I always like doing improv. Uh, I hate trying to memorize lines, but I can go off of just the top of my head and it'll make sense. So I started taking some improv classes at the LA Connection Comedy Club in Burbank. Um, every Sunday I'm there, just kind of working things out with this group of our team. And I guess a couple of nights ago, they have a show at the Comedy Chateau in Hollywood. Now the thing about that is they only have that show for us every 3 months, and it's a really big, kind of popular place. Like Dave Chappelle's been there, fucking Seinfeld, tons of like really huge names.
Yeah.
So to go up on that stage and do that was dope, but I had no clue I was going to do that whatsoever. Like I was there to watch them do it, so I understand how it works and have a couple beers and shit. But the second I walked in, he's like, "Hey, you ready to go?" I'm like, "What the fuck? Go for what?" He's like, "Go up on stage." And I'm like, "Yes, let's do it." I was nervous. I was talking to Kevin and you guys during this whole thing, but it was a lot of fun and I can't wait to do it again. It's if you have an opportunity to do anything related to that, give it a shot, man. It's scary. Like I don't want to dance and sing on stage in front of anybody, but that was a full crowd and we did it. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was pretty funny, man. And and on a personal level, knowing where you were in your headspace a year ago, 6 months ago, to doing that, like that's significant improvement. So definitely proud of you for that, man. Like that's fucking cool, dude. And I am a little jealous because I would love to do that kind of stuff. We just don't have that kind of thing here in Northwest Arkansas. Not for my kind of fucking humor.
I think it's around, man. You just got to find it.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But I was talking to Kate about it the other day. I was like, man, I think it'd be funny to get up there and tell some like fairly clean jokes and then tell that one story about in Germany, that
Mm,
one that everybody gets disgusted by. You know what I'm talking
you
about?
a joke? I'm not aware. We got to talk about it offline.
But yeah, it was outside the labyrinth one night. It was gross. Motor oil, if that clues you in. Wasn't actually motor oil, it just resembled motor oil. Anyway, not telling that story here. Um, If you know me
I
in real life, you can ask me. I'll gladly tell you. But I just think it would
yeah,
be
man.
funny. It's kind of like the oh fuck, what is that? Uh they had a whole documentary on this one joke, and it's the talent agent joke. You know, this couple comes in
No.
and
You talk aristocrats.
huh?
The
Yeah.
aristocrats. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of a in my mind it's like a play on that. Like, hey, so here's a joke that I made up. What do you call a man with leprosy who escapes from prison? A leprechaun. And some other dumbass jokes like that, which by the way, that one I did make up. Um, and then end on that one, on that story, and just people being like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Because it's not a joke,
You,
it's an actual story.
you would kill if you ended anything like that out there here on a stage. It would fucking murder.
Yeah. I do think I would like to go out there when one of those things is going on. If not, just to sit there and watch. I think it'd be fun. If it happens every 3 months, I might be able to play in that. But we do have little Henrik on his way late October, so we will see how that plays out.
Hey, man, I can't believe you let everybody know just on the air, man. Y'all don't know this shit because y'all don't talk to us on a daily basis, shit, because we're not friends. No, I'm just joking. Like I've known Kevin has had the child coming, and that he was married, and I had to keep it to myself. And if you know me, like I like to talk about shit, but I don't like to put people's business out there. So these shows that we're having, and I know that this child is coming. I want to talk to him about it on air and all this kind of shit. I can't even do that, but now I can. So Kevin, I'm gonna interview you.
Okay.
What is the feeling? Uh, again, a year ago, your life was well, not completely different, but very much different compared to what it is now. Like, what is the feeling on your side there?
Man, it's indescribable, honestly. I've always wanted to be a father. For since I was 16, I remember making the decision that I cannot wait to become an adult and get married and have kids. And I attempted to rush into that a couple of times. Um, Fortunately, that didn't 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 I don't know. It is what it is. They ended how they ended. But just the thought that, you know, in a few short months, there will be this little baby that is my little human, my little creation. Look what I made. Look. um and the fact that, like, I get to teach this little human about life and sports and sportsmanship and education and being a free thinker and how to walk and how to eat and how to clean his room and be nice to animals and what I mean everything. You know what I mean? It's I To say that it's exciting is an extreme understatement. And to say that it's kind of scary is also an extreme understatement because, like, what if you go wrong somewhere? What if you slip up and say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, whatever. But I try not to think about those things. I'm just so fucking, I don't know, blown away at the fact that, like, it's I'm 41 and I'm having a kid. I'll be 42 when he's born, and I don't know, man. I'm fucking excited about it. Like, Kate is too. We both are. Um, and yeah, it's pretty great, actually.
I could not be more excited for anybody in the history of anybody when it comes down to this. Like Kevin's my boy, man. We've been through a lot of shit together. He was there when my son was born. He was
Yeah.
there. He was at the
Mm.
hospital. It wasn't like in he was fucking there. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it fucking I can't explain how happy I am for you and Kate and everything, man. It's a good feeling. I got tears over here, damn near.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is pretty cool, man. And that's one thing that I'm excited about too is, like, um I'm a firm believer, especially after serving in the army and understanding what this community is like, and this family you kind of get to pick, even though like we were all thrown together. You know, we choose to stay in contact because we choose each other as far as being, you know, brothers. And I'm excited for the fact that like my son will have not only his blood uncles and aunts, but like also all of these other uncles and aunts, um, mostly uncles, who will teach him, you know, wit and humility and how to, you know, do whatever it is, you know, that they want to teach him to do. And he's got this like support system that he knows nothing about yet. Um, you know, if something should happen to me in the next, you know, however long, like I know that like he and Kate would be taken care of through you guys, um,
Mhm.
the best way that y'all could. You know what I mean? And that's fucking cool to know. You know what I mean? Like and it's one of those things that like, you know, you serve in the military, you become a part of this brotherhood, and you do some of these fucking terrible things together, and you survive it. And you know, kids aside, that's a neat feeling. And then you bring in your children, and now they're a part of this family. Um, and you know, should they ever need help from anybody, like they have a laundry list of people that they can call. And that's fucking cool, man. Like that's something that like I never really thought about until, you know, found out that we're having a kid. I was like, well, fuck, man. Like it's not just, I mean, yeah, it's me and Kate raising him, but like there's this other support group out there. Then that's cool, man. I'm excited about that.
I'm I'm so excited for it, man. So congrats on that. Hopefully everything will continue to bake at a nice and it comes out nice and crisp at a room temperature and everything's nice and good to go, man.
Yeah, so far so good. Everything's tracking. We actually just had our gender scan the other day, and we finally got to see what they call his. Well, she said what we were looking at was his ball sack. Actually, it was fun. It was kind of funny. The doctor, I was like, because I was looking at the ultrasound pictures, and I was like, how? Looking at this, can you see that this is a boy? And she's like, well, what we're looking at actually is, the ball sack, for lack of a better term. Well, there is a better term. It's a scrotum, but you get what I'm saying. I'm like, like
Right.
this is my doctor right here. But yeah, I was like, okay, I get it, I get it. So I don't know, but we knew it was a boy because we did the blood test, um, several weeks ago to determine the gender, and that said it's a boy. So he is a boy. His name will be Henrik. Pretty excited about it. We wanted a girl, but man, I think having a boy would be fucking just as rad. You know.
Either way, it's gonna be fucking awesome, man. Like you said it best. Like we've been through a lot of shit together as friends. Everyone has their own family. Everyone family expands. Your family is expanding now, man, and fuck, man, I can't wait for it. Can't wait to meet him whenever it
Yeah.
gets here. It's here. That's wild. I'm not
Mm.
gonna say it.
I know.
You're
I keep saying it too. I'm like, no, it's him. He. It's a boy.
yeah, man. So hey, I think on that note, I got nothing else to say. You got anything?
No, that's it, man. I got a paper to write though.
Yeah, you know what? I think we can shut this one on.
Hell yeah.
Hey, folks, thanks for listening to Before I Forget. Um, it's nice to be back doing these things again. Please like, listen, share, subscribe, watch, and share our show. And thank you for listening. Kevin, you got anything?
No, that's it, man. Thanks to Lou for coming on and sharing that information with us and that story, and his experiences. And we'll see y'all next month
You know, next meeting.
or whenever. Yeah.